for joining us this morning. As I said, I'm Gemma, I'm content strategist at Spindogs, so anything related to content from kind of the first ideation all the way through to final creation and upload, I'm your gal for anything like that. Today's session is going to be all about using AI in content creation and kind of the pitfalls and the benefits of it. If you exist in any kind of online space nowadays, AI has become unavoidable, and if you don't adapt, you can get a bit left behind. So it can be a really great tool for speeding up processes, getting your content live faster. But if you try and cut too many corners, it can really damage your performance in the long run. So in this session, we'll cover what that damage might look like, how to avoid falling into those traps, and how to instead use it to benefit your copy. So my goal is to help you better understand the benefits and weaknesses, and you'll leave hopefully with a sharper sense of how to use AI to benefit your content rather than accidentally hindering it. So just as a kind of breakdown of what we'll go over today into 6 sort of mini sections: AI copy's strengths and weaknesses, risks and trade-offs, spotting AI generated copy and how to stop yours sounding the same way. And then we'll go over how search engines treat AI generated copy, how you can use it to instead benefit your work, and then any final thoughts and questions at the end. I'll probably talk for kind of just under 20 minutes and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end. So first things first is that there is a time and a place for AI copy. As with anything, it has its strengths and weaknesses, which means that when it comes to generating copy, its quality will vastly depend on what you're asking it to produce and how. As a general rule, it's pretty bad for generating site copy, I've found, or generating kind of long form content in particular. It's better for blog posts or articles, if you are going to use it for long form copy. And this is kind of because of how AI thinks of long form content generation, which is that it likes to frame it like a narrative, like some kind of story, or every LinkedIn post that you've read in the last 2 years. And as a result, it all kind of starts to sound the same because it's following that same structure and that same kind of idea of what this copy should look like in the long run. It's a lot better for short form copy, things like ads or product descriptions, and that's generally because they're a bit more factual and they don't rely as heavily on that kind of creative voice. The main thing, though, is that it can't replicate the strategy that needs to take place for truly effective copy. So all the SEO research, the keywords, everything like that. It's much better used as a supportive tool for creating your own content rather than generating the output itself. So some of the risks and trade-offs of if you are going to use kind of AI generated copy. First being accidental plagiarism. It's not uncommon for AI models like ChatGPT to directly lift existing copy from other sites. Even if it does cite the source in what it's generating for you, it won't tell you if it's directly lifted the content. Obviously, this can get you in all sorts of issues and ranking problems and things like that. In a kind of similar vein, you'll get a lack of SEO. So AI generated content is not going to be creating your copy with keywords, content clusters, internal linking, ranking in mind. And without that being factored in, you will find an effect on your ranking. So even if you do put in your own keywords and grounding content, when AI generates the bulk of your copy, it's still pulling from other sources online. And that makes it really difficult to rank in a lot of ways, particularly in kind of overview snippets, because when it's creating copy for you, it's going to favor the copy online that it's already decided is trustworthy. So it's always going to rank that above whatever it spits out for you, because whatever it spits out for you is still based on these already online pieces, if that makes sense. It's already decided that these other pieces are valuable and trustworthy, which is obviously why it's using them as the basis for your work. And then lacking originality. So maybe the most obvious trade-off with AI generated copy is that it has a very distinct voice, particularly like ChatGPT. There are a lot of giveaways to AI copy, which we'll get into in a moment, and some of these are really frustrating because we've kind of, as content creators, we've been taught that certain things like the rule of 3 are really good to use in our copy, and now they've become these signposts of AI generation. So over time, these can really hurt your engagement and your brand trust. So you need to really be holding on to your individual voice. And yeah, more specifically than these individual points, voice is kind of that key giveaway. AI really struggles to capture tone of voice. Even if you input your kind of tone of voice document as a piece of grounding context, it does consistently struggle to replicate that. Um, so some of the giveaways of AI generated copy, kind of the things to look for. First of all is the dreaded M dash. I don't really know anybody who actually uses M dashes, so run for the hills if you see a bunch of M dashes in your copy. Excessive listing, bullet points, numbered lists, overuse of bold and italics, too many quotation marks, overusing the rule of three. American English on UK sites is a big one. Lots of short sentences, cliches, and by cliches, I mean things like with mastered precision or the objective is clear, all of these kind of signposting sentences that aren't actually doing a lot. They just sound like cliches. Let's dive in being one. It's not X, it's Y. The real question is this, and unnecessary purple prose or fluff. So kind of saying a lot of things without saying anything, or kind of having the exact same sentence in a different structure 3 times in a row. So as an example of this, and how difficult ChatGPT in particular can find replicating tone of voice, is I ran a prompt through the exact same prompt through ChatGPT twice. The first one, the one on the left, I asked ChatGPT to create a 100-word introduction to this session. There are other, just to kind of caveat this, there are other copywriting tools, copywriting AI tools specifically, like Jasper and Copy AI. But because those require subscriptions, a lot of people gravitate to ChatGPT. And I just kind of want to highlight why maybe, make sure you've got your human in the loop, make sure you're not over relying on it. So this one on the left is just what ChatGPT gave me just from entering the synopsis of this session and asking for a 100-word introduction. And then the one on the right, I asked for the exact same thing, but I also attached our Spindogs tone of voice document. So in theory, it should be a lot more accurate. It should feel a lot more personable, and frankly, it doesn't. I would argue that the one on the right is maybe even worse because it's trying to do something that it's not very good at doing. So I've highlighted here everything in red is essentially a giveaway of AI generation. So the version on the left, there's a lot of purple prose. We've got the rule of three used 3 times in the span of 100 words. And then the one on the right, it's still used twice. It's not a lot better. So yeah, that's just to kind of show you that even with these grounding documents, and obviously like the more grounding documents that you give it, the better the output's going to be. But I just want to highlight that voice is something that ChatGPT in particular does really, really struggle with. So that's all well and good. I am now going to go over how search treats AI copy because it's all well and good knowing, the physicality of reading it and what that's going to be like, but how is it going to affect your rankings with over-reliance on it? So despite the kind of AI overviews that appear in Google, it is actually penalizing AI content. This isn't like an automatic innate feature, but it's happening as a result of a few other key things. The first is search quality rater guidelines. So for those of you that don't know, Google uses human evaluators to test the accuracy of its search engine, and they focus on the quality of the content. So within the guidelines for these evaluators, Google has instructed people to rate seemingly AI generated content as the lowest quality by default since 2025. So this means if your content's recognizable as AI generated, you're going to be immediately penalized by these human reviewers. And then Google also does semi-regular core updates, which update and tweak the way that search engines treat content and SEO. The last couple have been addressing AI content, including the one earlier this month. There was one at the start of February, which aims to improve user experience in 3 key ways. So these are to show users more locally relevant content, reducing sensational content and clickbait, and showing more in-depth, original and timely content. Original being kind of the key word here. Again, it's all about that voice. If your output, if your content sounds like everything else on the internet, if it sounds like everybody else that's using AI content, it's not going to rank as original content. Google's not going to trust it. You're not going to show up on page 1. Bing then is less strict. but it does still prioritize content with quality and credibility. So QC is essentially Bing's equivalent of Google's EAT system. EAT being expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And this is just like the kind of key criteria that these search engines look for in order to find content that they want to rank. So that's to say for Bing, even if they're a little bit less strict, but if your content's not oozing quality and credibility, i.e. being clearly written by ChatGPT, it's still not going to rank well. So a couple of graphs here. These are taken from two case studies shared on social media, and they kind of demonstrate a phenomenon that we're starting to see more and more of. They show their respective companies' SERP rankings, so search engine result page rankings, after supposedly being optimized for generative engine optimization, so optimizing for AI search over organic search. Similarly to the February core update from Google, there was a particularly impactful December core update, part of which was knuckling down on AI content and prioritizing content from historically kind of recognized and trusted sources. So a lot of people got hit really hard by this update. The first graph begins its decline at the start of December. So kind of that midpoint of the graph is in December. And then the same with this red one, the second graph, that kind of big dip towards the end, that's December 2025 as well. So you can see that these are both being hit quite hard by that core update. And we can't obviously say exactly what has caused this. It's correlative data rather than direct cause and effect. But the speculation in cases like these is around AI-generated copy for programmatic SEO. So kind of using AI generation from drafts and templates to kind of bulk create content. It could be that the AI chose niche long tail keywords that aren't actually relevant for ranking. It could be that the tone is obviously AI. It could also partially be external features, like universal features that a lot of people are experiencing, like click-through rate generally has dropped quite a lot since the AI overviews have come into effect because people are kind of getting what they need from that. And there's nothing wrong with trying to optimize for AI. It's really not. Everybody wants to be in those featured snippets. It's being aware of the differences and making sure you're not doing that to the extent of damaging your content or letting it override what you know about SEO. Ultimately, you still want your content to be primarily readable for human users above AI. Your audience should still always be your priority. So that's a lot of what not to do. Let's have a little look at what it's good for instead. And that is that it's really great as a tool, a supporting tool, rather than outright producing your copy. So the first thing that I like to use a lot for is brainstorming. This could be the beginning or the end of your content creation process. It can be really effective for generating ideas if you've got plenty of grounding material about your business or about your kind of concept. Even better, if you've got a fully drafted piece of copy, it can be really useful for finding weaknesses, holes, points to expand on, things like that. Another is summarizing and extracting. If you've got like a really large source that you want to reference, but you don't want to spend, 8 years scanning it for key points, it's really useful to use the AI to do this for you. I would recommend if you're going to do that though, just do a little bit, do a Control F on the document and just make sure that whatever it's claiming is in the source is actually there. Generating heading structures as well. If you're able to implement a thorough brief, AI models can be really good for guiding the structure of an article. By getting it to come up with your H2s and your H3s, you can more easily decide what needs to go into your piece and where it should get divided up if you're a bit unsure of what needs to go in. That way you still have full control over the actual content and over the voice. It's just be sure to optimize those headings after and make sure you're still getting that SEO in. Kind of continuation from that, getting the most out of it is be really specific with your prompts. Voice aside, the more specific your prompt is, the more specific the output's going to be. Stay within your knowledge base. AI is not a replacement for your own understanding. Never rely on it to do something above your knowledge base because you won't be able to check that it's doing it right if you don't know better. And kind of on that same vein, just fact check absolutely everything. Be sure to do your own additional research, check that everything's factual and accurate, and you'll be grand. Final thoughts then, if you're going to take away three key things from this. Let it be these three things, although please take away more than three things. First is to use AI as a support, not a substitute for strategy. Everything that goes in to your content creation before creating the output still really needs to be there. All of your SEO still needs to be there. All of the research still needs to be there. Speed has trade-offs, especially for originality in search. AI generation is so convenient and it is so great, but just be aware of what you might be trading off for that efficiency. And then quality control is what keeps AI content worth reading. Um, Making sure that you still got your original voice really is the most important thing, because that's what is going to support your search engine results. It's what's going to support your SEO. It's what's going to support your brand individuality in, an online presence where everyone is starting to sound a bit the same. Um, and that's me. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for that, Gem. I think for some reason our comments section or the chat feature has been disabled, but I think folks are still able to use the Q&A section if anybody does have any questions. One thing I will say though is interesting, Jen, that you said you've never met somebody who's ever used
Mm.
M dashes,
You're
and
going to tell
I
me now
I
that you
use
have an M
M
dash.
dashes all
Of
the
course you
time.
are.
Even when I'm like texting people or, in my work, and I've been
Mhm.
told now in the past, like few months, whenever I've had somebody review something that I've written, it's like you got to remove the M dashes. But I'm like, that is actually my own tone of
Well,
voice.
this is what I mean. Like, it's really frustrating, some of these things that are now recognizable as AI writing. Like, I was always taught, like when I was at uni and stuff, I was always taught like rule of three is really great for like
Mhm.
retaining information and for making things stick. And now, as soon as you put a list of three things in, someone's like, "Oh, that's AI." It's like,
Yeah.
no, I swear it's not.
Yeah, so now I've even had to change the way I write just in case I get accused of being
I love a semicolon. So
semicolon. Yeah, that's another one, yeah, that
semicolon,
I've been
great
told.
substitute for an M dash.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest bugbear for you when people do use ChatGPT in terms of content creation? Is it the M dash? Is it the
I think it is just the situation around originality. It's just everything sounding the same. Like I crave original content, you know? It's yeah, I think that's it. It's the big yeah, it's everybody sounding the same.
yeah. Oh, we've just had some questions come through, Jem.
Mm.
One from Dan Lewis. So, what would be your top tip for prompts when using AI tools?
Prompts. I would say give it absolutely as much as you can. I know obviously the example with the tone of voice document, the whole thing is that it struggles with that. But voice aside, kind of grounding content, if you can give it keywords, if you can give it kind of an idea of what you want it to include, if you can give it maybe like if you've got competitors, things like that, give it as much grounding content as you can. And that'll really help it to get an idea of what you're looking for with your output.
Great point. Another question that we've had: what has been the biggest win that you've experienced
Oh,
with
that's an easy
AI
one.
in content?
Biggest win is definitely the time saving element. I think when you're using it to plan or to optimize, so kind of as I was saying, like using it right at the beginning or right at the end, that's when the time saving really can come in. It can like, you know, not cut corners because you're not cutting corners. Um, but just saving that time, getting that efficiency, being able to focus all of your attention on the quality of the content itself and kind of having almost like the admin side and the kind of drafting side done by the AI, that can really be a bit of a saver in the long run.
Have we had another one come through? How do you approach the client conversation when it comes to AI generated content?
Just be honest with them. Just tell them what your process is. That's kind of what we do as well. We're completely
Mhm.
open with how we use AI and what we use it for. We don't, I don't use it for the kind of the writing itself because I like to make sure that, obviously we are supporting tone of voice. But it will be used for structuring, for brainstorming, things like that. And it's just being honest with the client, making sure that they know how you're using it. And then there's not going to be any kind of nasty surprises.
Mhm. And we're always very honest about having that human in the loop, which
Oh
has
yeah,
become
absolutely.
a bit of a tagline here at Spindogs over the past, I guess, 12 months,
Hmm.
having that human in the loop. when doing a sort of AI generated content. Do you
Yeah,
pref
absolutely.
Can you remember a time, Jen, before
Before
ChatGPT was a
AI.
thing, doing it for your role?
Yeah, yeah. And the big thing is it took a lot longer.
Yeah.
It really did. Like that's the thing, like I don't want to just spend all of this time talking about, these are the bad things. Like, yeah, there are risks and it's being aware of those risks, but it comes with a lot of good stuff as well.
Hmm. What do you prefer the time before or the time after?
Um, I don't know if I would say that I prefer either. I think it's just the changing of the environment and,
Hmm.
you know, things change and you've got to change with them.
It's true. A good point to end on, I think. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Jem. Yeah, it was super good. And yeah, thank you for everybody for joining us. If you want to move on to the next slide for me, Jem,
Yes.
just do a little quick
Yeah.
shout out to some of our upcoming events. So myself and our head of strategy and AI, Adam, will be heading to London next week. If we have anyone based around those areas who fancies joining us for for the afternoon, where Adam's going to be hosting a workshop. Or you can join us for our next spin class, which is going to be taking place at the end of March, and that's with our technical director, Dave Morgan, who's going to be covering how to protect your digital platforms. But I'll send the links for these events in the follow-up. I'll also send a recording and a copy of Gem's slides as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and hope to see you at either of those upcoming events. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
good day.